Hey, everybody, it's Alan Lowe, and we're here with a new show, a great show, one that I think is going to become a flagship show for the Flagler Voice podcast studio, and it is called The Shield of Life. And the CEO of Shield of Life is Andria Klioze, and that's with a Z, not an S, I found out. So how are you doing today, Andrea?
I'm doing great, and we're very excited. I'm here with Dr. Scott Klioze, and we've been doing podcasting for a while, and we love to teach about disease and helping people understand disease. So we love to help people become wiser and smarter about decision making and trying to help them field this crazy world of healthcare.
Yes, exactly. In fact, what's interesting, and I think I told you once already, I listened to you on WNZF radio show that you have, the doctors are in, and you mentioned once, you said, you're talking about drinking soda, and you mentioned once that, people are telling you, well, they only drink one soda a day, so it can't be that bad. And you said, well, what if I just go out to your car and put one glass of water in the gas tank a day? And that, I think I've mentioned it to you before, that hit me really hard because I drank soda. Now I don't drink soda because I don't want to put water in the gas tank. But it's absolutely true. So let's introduce your husband, Scott.
Hi, guys. Good to see everybody out there. I think I'm used to the camera here. I'm so used to doing radio without anyone. Hopefully I don't put my finger where it doesn't belong.
Well, we can edit.
But I'm just
Makes for a fun show.
I'm known as Dr. Klioze at the hospital. Everywhere else, I'm just Andria's husband.
No, that's not true,
That's
Scott.
who I am. I'm Andria's husband. And I've watched Andria go through this process of developing Shield of Life. It started off as Heal.
Yes.
That's how it started off, and that was healthy eating, active life, and found out that somebody already had the nomenclature or the moniker Heal. It was out in California.
Yeah, healthy eating, active lifestyle. So it's kind of too close.
So there was some infringement on whatever they had copywritten at the time. So Andria actually was asking all of us what she should call her entity, and our son Stevie actually came up with it, right?
Yeah, I remember when he was talking to me, he said, I just found out that I didn't have to take the COVID vaccine for religious exemption. I was very happy about that. And he said, what's else going on, Mom? And I said, I got to get a new name for my company. And he goes, Mom, you know what? He said, everything you do is for God. He said, it's got to be something related to God. And I said, yeah, but you're always yelling at me not to push the whole Jesus button. And so I said, it just has to be his truth. And when the kids were little, I'd give them 25 cents for the 6 pieces of armor in Ephesians 6:18. And it's the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the sword, which is the word of God, the helmet of salvation, and the shoes of peace. And he goes, Mom, you're like the shield of faith, but you're like the shield of life because you give people back their life so they can live it. And so that's how the name came back. So it's funny.
Oh,
it's interesting,
awesome.
My son.
And interestingly, if you look at the camera that's facing you, there's little Jesus watching you to make sure you do it right.
Yes, there is.
It's hysterical you say that. So on my computer at work, my nurse has a picture of Jesus that said, I'm watching you. So he's really got his eye on me at work and here.
That you can't get away from it.
I better do the right
I
thing.
got you a cup for Mother's Day.
That's right.
It says, I love you more. It's a picture of Jesus, and it says, I love you more. Right? So you're constantly being watched.
I'm covered.
I'm watching
covered.
you right now.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Jesus handyman over there.
That's right. So one of the interesting things I think as well was how we met. So I met you first. I guess it was over the phone was our first sort of introduction. And we were introduced by a very close friend of both of ours.
Yes.
And because I have started this journey, it's now a month and 3 days ago when I pricked my finger and found that my blood sugar was 404. And now, this morning, when I woke up, it was 99. So
Amen.
I was
You're doing
happy
a great
about
job.
that. But it's all diet related. I'm not on any meds. And the introduction came because Maggie saw me putting on Facebook about it and mentioned you. And I think that the things that you do and with you, Scott, it's incredible. And the more I find out about it, I was at your seminar the other day, which you can, if you're watching us now, you can look it up. It's on all of the Flagler Voice stuff, YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, TikTok, everywhere right now, and watch it. It was an awesome seminar, and I've been bitten by the bug, so to speak.
Very good. Yeah, no, Maggie is one of our clients on Shield of Life, and we do have one-on-one clients that we coach. We have monthly lectures with varying topics every month, and I call the patients that are our clients and check on them, and we work through their diseases to actually eliminate them. That's the goal, and transform their life. And so Maggie has been with us for several years, and
she's also one of our 5 regular listeners. On
on W and the Doctor's In. So she's been.
You have 5? That's not bad.
God always teases. We have more.
Thank you guys for that if you watch.
Yes, but she has been an avid listener and loves WNZF and has been watching and listening for many years. And so, so she's been a big advocate to help other people come to Shield of Life, which is great because we're reversing disease.
Yes.
Every bite, every step, every time you sleep longer, every time you pray a little more, every time you breathe correctly, and build that healthy community.
And on my journey, I have a Facebook page where I've been talking about it and stuff, and a lot of people are following it. Thank you, everybody that's following it and discovering you can get healthy without meds.
Yes.
Not always, but a majority of the time. But one of the interesting things is this person, I don't think they were in my friends list, but they saw it and they came on and they said that absolutely cannot reverse type 2 diabetes without meds. You need to get to a doctor. You need to go to whatever the doctor is.
Diabetologist or endocrinologist.
Endocrinologist, yeah. You need to go there and all of this kind of stuff. And I knew you were coming. So I said, would you like to debate? Because they said they have retired now, but for the past 12 years, they were working with diabetes patients and all this stuff. And I said, how would you like to do a debate? Instantly, well, I'm retired now. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. Okay, sure.
So I tell
Anyone can be brave sitting behind that computer.
Exactly.
Yeah, warrior.
I'll tell a wonderful story. About 17 years ago, I went to the American Diabetes Association meeting and sat in a subcommittee of endocrinologists and nutritionists. And I wanted to share with them because I had been reversing diabetes and getting people off hundreds of units of insulin at that point, and not just insulin. When you get rid of the insulin, you get rid of blood pressure and cholesterol. It's like a domino effect. And I sat in the subcommittee, and at the time I wasn't a diabetologist. I wasn't an obesity specialist. But I had created a protocol that I've continued to improve on, and raised my hand and I said, do you mind if I share something after they had their conference? And they said, yeah. And I shared with them what I had seen. And they said, well, Dr. Klioze, we hate to be discouraging to you, but you're not going to be able to reverse disease. They'll eventually become diabetics again. Well, here I am now, 17 years later, and I continue to see disease reversal, diabetes reversal, and remission. And in fact, in 2021, the American Diabetes Association did a hard notice to the public that diabetes can go in remission. They won't admit that it can go in reversal, but that's so variable depending on the patient, how long they've had it, what they're willing to do. You see, you were willing to hear that nugget of wisdom to begin your journey, which was don't put water in your gas tank.
Right.
Just 2 sodas a day will destroy 9 species of bacteria in your gut. And your gut bacteria make short-chain fatty acids to decrease inflammation in your body and in your brain to decrease dementia. They actually make your neurotransmitters to keep you happy. They also make your serotonin and dopamine, those neurotransmitters, but many other ones. They also help make your B and your K vitamins. So sodas are bad news when we kill those species of bacteria away. And when you eat healthy bacteria, you eat healthy vegetables, you feed the bacteria that want to stay there and are healthy for you, that we grew symbiotically together in evolution. So it depends on what the person is willing to listen to and do. And so perhaps the gentleman who made that comment had people in his life and patients that he took care of, or clients that actually weren't willing to change. Yeah. So I can't fault him for not seeing, but I have people, and maybe it's the way I speak to them and teach them, but I have many people like yourself and like Mike, who've been able to reverse diabetes. Yeah, Can they get diabetes again? yeah, if they go back to the same way. But that's why we push transformation and not just remission and reversal.
Going back into my story, I was diagnosed type 2 diabetes after I retired and had to get my own medical insurance. I had no idea either. I wasn't feeling anything, but I was tremendously overweight. And then the doctor put me on a diet and some medication. Well, I lost the weight, but they kept me on the medication. Okay. 2 years ago, I started looking and reading some of this stuff on the keto and carnivore stuff and what was going on. I said, well, I made a decision I had to make that I wanted to get better. Okay. I want to be around for my wife, my daughter, my grandson, my father, my son-in-law. I want to be around for my family. So I said, okay, I'm going to start trying this. So I told my doctor what I was going to do. And I said, after I've been on this for a while, I want you to reduce my medications so I can see if there's a difference, okay, where I am, caused by the medication or caused by the diet. And he wasn't willing to really do any of that. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing so you're fully aware of what I am. Well, within a reasonable period of time, I'm off the blood pressure. I'm off the cholesterol meds. And I started reducing the type 2 diabetes metformin. They had me on 2,000 milligrams a day. I went down to 15, to 1,000, to 5. And now I rarely use it at all. And it was all based on following these recommendations like you're offering to bring it back to a normal state. I was able to reduce my weight again to a more reasonable time. I didn't get crazy, but I brought it back down and feeling good. And, then I found out that if the doctor hadn't prescribed certain things for me based on my blood work, he'd be penalized. So,
I don't know. I think, that's an awesome story, Mike, first of all. And getting patients to buy into it and the doctors to buy into it, that's the biggest problem.
Yep.
And they get into a routine where they say, well, this is how we treat this. And they can't think outside that box. And that's the trap that we fall into. And I think that's probably supplemented by, the pharma, big pharma. They want you to be on their medication. I mean, I've said this when Andrea and I started medical school, the normal cholesterol was around 300, right? When they lowered it to 200, pretty much everyone had to be on a statin. So, I mean, I remember training with cardiologists who were completely normal on a statin because they thought that stuff was going to save their lives. And roll the clock forward 30 years, and we see there's all kinds of untoward effects of long-term statin use, and this is the problem. It takes decades to figure this out. You can't go wrong by doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And nature is always the right
nature
thing.
is always the best way.
Yeah.
And there are some medications you're going to need 100%. If you have if you're hypothyroid, you need thyroid medication.
But
to
you
be
can come
normal.
off that too.
But
Over
for all
time.
these other things, treating obesity and diabetes and hypertension by adding more medications. Like, I would see some of these patients come in when I had a clinic. They would come in and they would have a list of 20 plus medications, and they were telling me how horrible they felt. And as a radiologist, there's only so much I can do with medication. I got about 5 of them in my armamentarium. Most of them are anticoagulants. So I would ask them, I'm like, hey, are you by any chance VA connected? And if they said yes, I'm like, oh, I know where I'm sending you. I'll send them to Andrea. She'd get rid of about half of those things, and they'd feel better. But, that's the problem with medicine now. You don't have someone who's centralized, who's basically orchestrating the care of the patient. Every specialist is giving their medication for their disease process, and next thing you know, there's just all these drugs interacting with one another, and the patient suffers for it.
yeah, I mean, I might be on the ultra critical level here in about pharma, big pharma pushing all this stuff. One thing I realized in listening to some of the physicians that were giving me good advice, mostly online, obviously, MDs that have been there, done that, and said, okay, but then got an awakening, started reading the new sciences, the new stuff that's coming out. And, a lot of doctors don't have time, number one.
Oh, that's
They're
true.
relying on those pharma visits they're getting to come in. I go back to a story my wife told. She worked for the first group dental practice in Massachusetts, going way back when. And so one of the things that the doctors did there is they always tried to bring in young dentists because they had the most recent training. They learned, and so then they could learn from that group. You go to a physician's office today, that's not what they're looking at. They're not trying to find. They're busy. They don't have time. They should make time,
100%.
but that's, so we have to rely on people that we're finding outside, and thank God we found Andria here to help us continue on the journey that both Alan and I are on, and hope to get our community more involved with this type of stuff.
One of the things that Andrea does do in her own clinic are the group sessions, which I think is tremendous, because guys like you sit around, tell their story, because that, I think, is more meaningful to some individuals than having their doctor say, you need to do this, this, and this, because they're thinking, well, this is not going to work for me. But when they hear a colleague say, I did this, I'm now better, that means something. And I got to give Andrea credit for, coming up with kind of this group paradigm, decades before it was actually
Well, it
routine.
it wasn't my paradigm. It was what was recommended.
I'm trying to give you credit here.
But I appreciate the credit. But the reality is,
girl.
but it did work because we did, people could hear how angry, well, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I mean, that's just ridiculous to get off beef
And they'd be broken
pork.
down by the group.
And then what would happen is people in the group would be like, man, I was just like you. I get it. It's hard to get rid of. But let me tell you what's happened to me since that time. And, it's really fascinating to watch the behavior of people who just can't do it. And yet, how come you can do this, that, or the other, but you can't do this? It's your life. And the lecture that I gave this past week for the Ormond Chamber was your brain health. I mean, who wants to take all their assets and give them to a nursing home after we've all worked so hard, or to the healthcare industry? Because let me tell you, get in that hospital and they'll keep you longer and longer and find something else to work up and something else to work up.
And it's not a fiscal, it's not being driven by the finances, just, it's actually, nobody's in charge of the patient anymore, is what I find. It's not like they're sitting in there saying, oh, let's figure out how we're going to make more money off this person. It's just nobody's in charge. And everyone's afraid to make a decision because you've got a lot of, non-physician practitioners now who are basically orchestrating the care of that patient. And they don't want to make any decisions without the, explicit permission of all the subspecialists. And so the patients will sit, and I've seen it happen over and over again. I tell people, I'm like, the best advice I can give you is don't go to the hospital. Don't go in there unless you absolutely have to. And then when you get there, make sure that you can either advocate for yourself or have someone there who's advocating for you. Because if you don't, you get lost in that system, and it's horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I saw that as soon as we moved down here, didn't have our own physicians or anything. My wife got something, had to go in the hospital. You had to be there every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even more important, what you're talking about, what Andrea is doing with groups and people helping other people by giving their stories. You know that what I do, and the predominant of my life here in Flagler County, is I work with people in recovery. Well, now the most important, and they're realizing it, not just here, but all over the country, is getting certified peer recovery specialists. Those are people who have been there, done that, and been able to find a way out. So now they can share their journey and how it can be done with them. So you're doing the same thing.
Yeah,
That's
you're
great.
giving
Andrew
somebody
came up
hope.
with it first, though.
You're giving somebody hope.
I know, Andy's been doing that
Yeah.
for a long time.
But the cool thing is you give people hope and they hear these stories. And when I tell people, I've gotten people that were in scooters. And so any of you that are listening who actually, and hearing and seeing, you're in a scooter or you can't walk, and we have somebody on oxygen who came off oxygen out of scooters, pulmonary inflammation, visual disturbances. We've had people with the eye clinic calling and saying, what are you doing? How are you reversing eye disease? And our own clients in the Shield of Life, reversing and improving eye disease. Erectile function, that's an important thing for both sides of the fence. I mean, brain improvements,
There she goes.
healthy activities. I mean, these are things that are transformative and really getting rid of so many medications. You don't have to be a victim to medication, but it means you gotta make the changes. And what I find is when I sit and teach the science, And this is when I was director of education in the dean's office at UF. One of my philosophies was if we could teach faculty, residents, and fellows and attendings how to be good teachers, they would relay this pathophysiology of how disease happen to the patient. And the patients would be more compliant because you don't want the patient to ride the gas and the brake at the same time. And if we can teach them how to get off that brake, they will realize how profound their bodies were made to heal. But every time they drink that Coke, every time they keep drinking the alcohol and eating the beef when it's too much, too often, and the French fries,
I don't know.
they just kind of shove themselves back in that hole. They keep riding that brake and the gas at the same time. And it's like, man, let off. Just
Some of that
see how
conversation will be
amazing.
hard because this is beef and bacon country here. Right here.
Yeah, but I mean, just to see how much more your body can perform. I mean, when the lady came in my office after being off of a scooter and off oxygen, you kind of just got to be humble. At that point, you're like, okay, what else do I need to learn? But I do find that when people don't want to learn the science, they'll start drinking the soda again. When they don't really want to know the truth about free radicals and sick fat and timing of sleep and why that's so important and the whole gut biome and the whole longevity thing. And that's the reason why in Shield of Life we drive so many educational classes. And Scott's got amazing YouTube channel with lots of education, and we have Shield of Life YouTube too. And we do it to drive education and understanding. And of course, we have the program for people to sign up with because it's that detail of understanding that really helps people continue to understand. And we continue to do deeper dives into every aspect of healing.
Yeah, and probably should have done this in the beginning of the show, but go ahead and give a little bit of your background. And when she's done, Scott, I'd like you to do the same, if you don't mind.
So I am an internist, internal medicine, board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine. I'm also a fellow of the Obesity Medicine Association. I trained in Eastern Virginia Medical School to get my medical degree, did 1 year family practice and left and decided to do internal medicine. And I came to University of Florida and was asked to be chief resident. But at the same time, I was also asked to run faculty development at that time. So I ran the faculty development program for the College of Medicine. And I was also asked to start the hospitalist program. I was one of the crazy residents who loved taking call in the ICU. So they said, well, you would probably like to start this concept called hospitalist medicine, which is when doctors stop seeing their outpatient clinic and the hospital because they had a crazy life. And they were never getting home. They started separating the doctor practicing in his practice or in her practice, and then ones who were trained for in-hospital. So I did that. And when I was getting ready to leave the VA in Gainesville, they said, we don't want to lose you. And I said, well, I don't want to take care of runny noses, and you don't have a hospital in Daytona. And they said, well, what would you like to do if you were to work in our clinic? I said, I want to take care of complex patients, heart failure, liver failure, kidney failure, pancreatic failure, cancer patients. I won't run their treatments, but I will try to maximize their care so they don't need procedures. So my concept was if I take care of them really well, they wouldn't have to drive 2 hours to Gainesville, which is what happened. They started taking care really well and reversing disease. So now I run the obesity, metabolic, and diabetes clinic there, running insulin pumps as well as all sorts of autoimmune. And, I don't do their treatments. They still see rheumatology, et cetera, but I help associate work with them together. And then I started Shield of Life because when I was president of our county medical society for Volusia County, I'd have a lot of people coming up to me when I give free lectures. I wanted to convert Volusia County and Flagler County and St. Johns County to a blue zone. And those are places in the world where we don't die of disease, we die of old age. So I called Dan Buhner and talked to his brother John, who did the documentary on the blue zone. And they said, oh, it's going to be about $2 to $3 million per city. And I said, well, there's a lot of rich people, and maybe we could raise the money for one of these cities and see what happens. But if the people don't have the knowledge and the desire, we're throwing a lot of money for no reason. We got to give the foundation of education first. And that was why I started Shield of Life. And then somebody said to me, they would like to help me. And that was Tony and Audrey Lewis, who I give a lot of credit to because they figured out how to do Zoom, and they're in their 70s, and I was supposed to do music for them because I sing, and also I was playing guitar at the time. And so I was doing music for a Pentecostal service, and they actually said, you know what? we think God's telling us it's time for you to start your online program. And that's how Shield of Life for Healthy Eating, Active Life started. And so after that, it was converted to Shield of Life. So yeah, that's my past.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't do anything after that.
Scott's amazing.
All right, so I started off as an electrical engineer. Went to school at Virginia Tech. I worked
Go
for Engineering
Hokies.
Topographics Laboratories up in Fort Belvoir, Virginia for a year. And basically what I was doing was testing the constellation of satellites that now is our GPS. So in its infancy, they had 8 of these little satellites over, circulating around the Earth. I needed 3 of them up over the horizon to triangulate a spot on Earth. So I'd be out in White Sands, New Mexico at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the satellites were up over the horizon. And I would go out there with a suitcase-sized computer and a big, basically an antenna that was probably this big around, had a big bulb on the top of it, and it sat on top of a surveyor's tripod. And I would let this thing sit there and kind of do its thing and see how accurate these satellites were. And to see that we now have phones that can do this same thing is just mind-boggling to me. But after working for the federal government for a year, I realized that we did more celebration of people's longevity working for the government than we actually did work. And I didn't think I could do that for the rest of my life. So that's when I went back to medical school, and thank God I ended up at Eastern Virginia Medical School also, and that's where Andrea and I met.
Ah.
And pretty much from that point forward, I've been doing whatever she's been telling me to do. And that's been 30 years, and it's worked
Happy
well.
wife, happy life.
That's exactly right. I was slated to be chief resident up in Eastern Virginia. I was already in my radiology residency. Andrea and I had been married for about a month, maybe 6 weeks. And she goes, I just want to let you know that I applied to the University of Florida and I want to do my residency down there. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay, well, when you're done, you can come back up to Virginia. And she started crying. I'm like, oh, you want me to go too? I was new to the marriage thing. She goes, yeah, we're married. We got to go together. And so I had to go down there, lost a year. I couldn't go into the year that I was already in. I had to repeat that year because they didn't have room for me in the year. But we did that, and I'm kind of glad now that we ended up down in Florida. It's a much better state.
Kinda.
I'm very happy. I couldn't be happier.
He makes good decisions.
Good answer.
Yeah. No, it's been an awesome ride, and we really enjoyed the community here. Andrew and I both lived out our professional careers down in the Daytona area, and I don't think I'd have it any other way.
Yeah,
so.
and we're part of the Volusia County Medical Society and the Flagler Medical Society. And at one point, we were part of St. John's Medical Society, but the drive in our
we
crazy
just like to
schedule.
Talk, as you can tell. So we go to all the medical societies.
No,
You
but
are in a perfect place then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
It's actually great. And for any of you that listen that are physicians, you really should be part of the Flagler Medical Society.
All of them.
There
Come
you go.
join us. We'll have fun. Andrew will sing, dance. Tell you to stop drinking Coca-Cola and stop eating the beef, Alan.
Well, I'll go. I'm okay with the soda thing, but
No, I agree. I eat the beef also.
yeah.
Moderation. I did eat so much the other day, about a month ago, I actually had the meat sweats. I didn't think that was a real thing, but I woke up like sweating in the middle.
Oh,
So, but
I haven't had that
when
yet.
you don't do it often, I guess that's what happens. So,
Yeah.
you can, it's poison's in the dose. Water will kill you if you drink too much of it.
That's right. I always tell people that it's a scientifically proven fact that people who drank too much water have eventually died.
Yes. 100%.
That's when I was big into soda, so now it's reversed. Well, it's really great, and I appreciate you guys coming in. And this is the intro, the get to know you of your new show coming up, The Shield of Life. And it's
Yay.
going to be really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. If you guys have any questions out there, Andrea's all waiting for you. Look at her. Look at her, how eager she is.
But Scott's also an interventional radiologist and pull clots out of the brain and helps with
Yeah,
liver.
when you
so
see me, that means you didn't listen to Andrea.
So he's got a lot of wisdom for this journey of ours in Shield of Life.
So hopefully, listen to Andrea. You won't have to see me. So.
There you go. Well, that's really great.
Well, I think we're really getting excited about this whole health issue since Alan started into this thing. I've been in it for a couple of years, but that wasn't part of what got this all going. It was that severity of what Alan found that one morning and getting involved in it. And we have some really great people coming on now, nutritionists that really know They're not out just to sell you a product and that kind of stuff. And your information is just going to be incredibly valuable. We hope to make, like your hope is to make this county a healthy county.
Amen.
Common goal. Awesome.
Yep. Let's reverse disease, die of old age instead.
That's right. Good idea.
Very
All right,
good.
everybody. Thank you for watching. We've got another episode that'll come up next week, so don't go away.